Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we crack open a book on this show, we're looking for, I don't know, a new perspective on history or maybe a productivity hack or just, a good story.
Right.
But today we are doing something very different. We are stepping onto what feels like an absolute battlefield.
Battlefield is really the only word for it. We're looking at a text today that makes a massive claim. It says the modern world isn't just confused or that it hasn't just lost its way. It has been actively dismantled.
Yeah, and we are talking about Tree of Life, Great Chain of Being, Logos, Evolution, and Biology. That's by Conrad Riker.
Exactly.
And look, before we even get into the weeds here, and trust me, we are going deep into the weeds today, if you enjoy these deep dives where we strip away the noise and just get to the core of the most controversial ideas out there, hit that like and subscribe button right now.
Yeah, definitely do it now.
Because honestly, the algorithm isn't exactly friendly to the kind of stuff we're discussing today. So hit like, hit subscribe.
Absolutely. Because this is the exact kind of content that tends to get buried. Riker isn't pulling punches here at all. He literally calls this book a counteroffensive.
A counteroffensive, right.
Right. The premise is that Western institutions, so our laws, our education systems, the very structure of the family, have been captured by a specific ideological alliance. And he names them as feminists and Marxists.
Which is a heavy, heavy claim. Now, just to be clear up front, our mission today is just to give you an ultra-long, brutally honest look at his arguments. We aren't taking sides, we aren't endorsing the politics, but we are going to break down exactly what this worldview is.
Because you have to understand it. Riker's goal is to take us on this really incisive look at history and biology to show exactly what he believes we've lost. He's basically arguing that we've been fed a complete lie about human nature for the last 50 years.
Yeah, and he has this line right at the start that really sets the tone. He says, "The world is not broken, it was dismantled." That is the hook.
It's a great hook.
Now, we're going to cover as much as we can in the next 15 minutes or so, but man, this is a dense book. If you want the full blueprint, the data, the citations, the full philosophical argument, you really need to go to Amazon Kindle or Google Playbooks right now and buy the ebook.
Yeah, we can give you the map today, but he provides the actual terrain in the book.
Okay.
Also, for his ongoing updates on these topics, he tells readers to follow his Substack, which is at Conrad Riker.
At Conrad Riker. Got it. So let's get into the machine here. Let's start with the foundation. Yeah. Segment 1 is all about what he calls the primordial order. And he starts with this concept of the great chain of being.
Right.
Now, I haven't heard that term since maybe a college literature class. It sounds medieval. What is he actually getting at here?
So historically, the great chain of being was this ancient idea that the universe has a natural hierarchy. God, angels, humans, animals, plants, rocks, everything has a rank.
Okay, but today, in our modern culture, when we hear the word hierarchy, we immediately think oppression. We think of something artificial that needs to be torn down.
Exactly. We're taught that hierarchies are just these social constructs created by power-hungry people to keep everyone else down. But Riker flips that completely on its head.
Yeah.
He argues that the great chain isn't some dusty old philosophy. He says it's a biological reality.
Biological?
Yes. He says life is ranked, it is purposeful, and most importantly, nature is absolutely not a democracy. And he uses the example of lobsters to prove this isn't just some human invention.
Ah, the lobsters. I know this is kind of a famous example in this sphere, but Riker actually goes deep into the specific neurochemistry of it, right?
He does, yeah. It's a classic evolutionary biology example, but he uses it to make a very specific point about our own brains. Lobsters have been around for about 350 million years. They actually predate trees.
That is wild.
And for all that time, they have lived in rigid hierarchies.
So this is incredibly ancient hardwiring.
Right. And here's the mechanism he details. When two lobsters fight for territory, the winner gets a massive wash of serotonin. He stands taller, his brain literally changes, he becomes more confident.
And the loser?
The loser's serotonin crashes. His octopamine and cortisol spike. And he physically dissolves into a smaller, much more timid posture.
And Riker's point is that this mechanism, this exact serotonin counter, is still inside us.
Precisely. We share that neurochemistry. He argues that hierarchy isn't a social construct invented by dead white men or the patriarchy. It is literally nature's blueprint for order. Your brain is wired to monitor your status.
So when we try to flatten society and say everyone is equal or we give everyone a participation trophy, he's saying we are fighting 350 million years of biology.
Exactly. And he lists other animals too. Chimps, lions, wolves. Lions don't hold a sensitivity circle before the hunt to make sure everyone feels included.
Right. Strength leads.
Strength leads, competence leads. Riker contrasts this biological reality with what he calls the modern myth of equality. And to show how far we've fallen from this biological truth, he actually takes us back to Sparta.
Oh man, the Spartanagoge, this comparison it was stark. It felt like he was describing an alien species compared to how we raise kids today.
It is brutal.
Ew.
But he argues it was necessary. He describes how Spartan boys were taken at age 7 to the Agoge. They weren't coddled. They were forged.
No shoes, limited food, constant physical contention.
Right. Riker says they were forged into weapons. And then you look at modern parenting.
The participation trophy culture.
Exactly. Riker argues we've replaced the forge with the safety net. We are terrified of boys feeling pain or defeat. We rush to intervene the moment a child is even slightly uncomfortable.
But the Spartans knew, and Riker argues we have forgotten, that pain is the only way to build a man who can actually hold the line. If you remove the struggle, you remove the strength.
And this connects directly to his defense of testosterone, because we hear testosterone now and we immediately think aggression or toxic masculinity. That is the dominant cultural narrative.
Right, but Riker pushes back incredibly hard on that. He calls it a deliberate misbranding. I think he quotes a line. He says, "Testosterone is not the hormone of anger. It is the hormone of responsibility."
Which is a huge reframe. Responsibility.
Yeah.
Think about the alpha chimp again. He isn't the alpha just because he beats everyone up. He's the one who breaks up fights between the younger males. He patrols the perimeter. He stands between the troop and the leopard.
Right, he bears the burden.
Exactly. That is what high testosterone drives. Protection, decisiveness, burden bearing. Riker argues that when you demonize that hormone, when you call it toxic, you don't get a safer society. You get a society that is defenseless, a society that cannot act.
He also throws some heavy data at us regarding the physical and cognitive differences between men and women. This is in the Lie of Equality section. He talks a lot about variance.
He cites the greater male variability hypothesis. This is a very well replicated statistical finding. Basically, women tend to cluster more around the average in terms of IQ and various traits. Men are vastly overrepresented at the extremes.
So more male geniuses, but also more males with severe cognitive deficits. More CEOs, but way more homeless men.
Exactly. But Riker focuses on that upper tail. He argues that civilization actually relies on that male variance, specifically the male obsession with systems. He cites that roughly 87% of patents are held by men.
That is a staggering number, 87%.
And he argues this isn't just because women were kept out of science historically. He says it's because men are biologically wired for System 2 thinking.
System 2 thinking.
Right. He argues that men are more prone to an obsession with things, objects, abstract systems, whereas women are generally more oriented toward people, feelings, social consensus. He says our entire technological world, the power grid, the internet, the architecture, is built on that male obsession with things.
Okay, so if biology is destiny and hierarchy is natural, how did we end up in a world where those things are considered evil? And that perfectly leads into the second major segment, the war between logos and pathos.
This is really the core philosophical engine of the whole book. Logos is the Greek term for logic, reason, structure, the word. It is historically coded as masculine.
And pathos is emotion, empathy, fluidity, coded as feminine.
Exactly. Yeah. And Riker's argument is that our institutions have been completely captured by pathos.
And he starts with the law, which was honestly chilling to read.
It really is.
Yeah.
He talks about the erosion of due process in favor of believe all women. He uses the Duke Lacrosse case and the Kavanaugh hearings as his primary case studies.
The Kavanaugh one really sticks out because it was just so public. Riker points out that the standard of evidence seemed to shift in real time on national television.
He calls it emotional efficacy. In a logos system, a masculine system, facts matter, corroborating evidence matters, innocence is presumed.
Right.
But in a pathos system, what matters is the intensity of the emotion. Riker argues that during those hearings, it didn't matter that there was no proof. What mattered was that the accuser felt pain. He calls this the dominance of emotion over the presumption of innocence.
And he extends this institutional capture straight into the family courts. He calls it the fatherhood void.
This is going to be a grim chapter for a lot of men listening. He describes the family court system as a machine literally designed to excise the father. He calls the state the surrogate husband.
Meaning, the government takes the father's role financially.
Yes. You remove the biological father from the home, and you replace him with a check welfare or child support. Riker actually calls child support state-sponsored extortion in many cases.
Because the system incentivizes the separation.
Exactly. If the mother leaves, she gets the kids and the money. The state enforces it with the threat of jail time for the man. The father becomes nothing more than a visitor in his own lineage.
It's not just the courts, though, it's schools. We talked about the Spartanagoge earlier, but look at a modern classroom.
Riker argues schools have been completely feminized. Think about what a classroom requires. Sit still, be quiet, listen, agree, color inside the lines.
Traits that, on average, just come much easier to girls.
Yes. And normal boy behavior, fidgeting, wrestling, competing, taking risks, is now pathologized.
We just call it ADHD.
And we drug it. Riker says we are medicating boys for the crime of having energy. We are telling them that their natural state is a disorder because it disrupts the pathos environment of the classroom. We are literally drugging the masculinity out of them before they even hit puberty.
And then there's leadership. He draws a very sharp contrast between male leadership and female leadership.
He does not mince words here at all. He contrasts the crisis management of historical generals or even modern figures like Elon Musk. Decisive, risk-taking, outcome-oriented with leaders like Jacinda Ardern or Angela Merkel.
He calls it the consensus trap.
Right. Riker argues that female leadership tends to be consensus-driven and highly empathetic. And that sounds really nice in peacetime.
But in a crisis.
In a crisis, he argues, it is entirely ineffective. He points to the safety trap. When you prioritize everyone feeling emotionally safe, you cannot make the hard, ruthless decisions required to actually physically be safe.
And Sweden is his big example here.
Sweden is the canary in the coal mine for the whole book. Riker argues Sweden fully embraced this gynocentric shift. Feminist foreign policy, gender-neutral parenting, open borders based purely on the empathy of helping the refugee.
And what is the result, according to Riker? Because the media usually paints Sweden as this progressive utopia.
He points to the hard data: skyrocketing gang violence, grenade attacks, rising rape statistics, and a military that struggles to recruit because the population has been entirely pacified.
Wow.
He argues that when you prioritize emotional safety and inclusion over hard borders and law enforcement, you don't get a utopia. You get societal decline. You get a place that is nice but weak, and weak places get conquered.
That connects to the next big theme perfectly. The danger of vulnerability. We hear this all the time now, right? Men need to be more vulnerable. Real men cry. Riker says absolutely not.
He calls it a complete trap. Chapter 18 is actually titled The Myth of Empathy. His argument is that empathy destroys merit. If you are hiring based on empathy or judging court cases based on empathy, you are by definition ignoring facts and competence.
You are favoring the person with the saddest story, not the person who can do the job.
Exactly. And he also talks about the emotional con.
This part is controversial, but Riker insists on it. He discusses how tears are weaponized. In a boardroom or a dispute, if a woman cries, the dynamic shifts immediately. Logos logic goes completely out the window. The priority instantly becomes soothing the distress.
It stops being about who is right and starts being about who is upset.
Exactly. Riker warns men that they need to rely on stoicism to resist this. If you give in to the emotional manipulation, if you apologize just to stop the tears, you lose. You have surrendered truth to emotion.
He even reframes the Karen meme. Usually we just think of an annoying lady at a Starbucks asking for the manager.
But Riker frames it much darker. He calls it the weaponization of female distress to utilize state power against men.
Right.
It's a woman calling the police, which is the state's violence, because she feels uncomfortable or threatened by a man's mere presence. She knows the system is rigged to protect her feelings over a man's reality. It is a proxy attack.
Man, it is heavy stuff. And he addresses the red pill realization directly for the audience.
He does. He says the red pill isn't about hating women. He says that's just the media smear. He says it's about realizing the system is designed to break men. It's about seeing the matrix of gynocentrism.
It's about realizing that the rules you were taught, be nice, be vulnerable, be a provider, are actually the chains that bind you.
Okay, so the diagnosis is incredibly grim. The world was dismantled. But the book isn't just doom and gloom. Segment 4 is about the return. It's a blueprint for a renaissance.
Right. He pivots from the diagnosis to the solution. And it starts with the individual, rebuilding the man.
He talks about the discipline code.
He talks about the absolute necessity of routine as a declaration of independence from comfort. Waking up early, lifting heavy weights, taking cold showers.
It sounds a bit cliche, right? The cold shower thing. Every fitness influencer talks about it.
It does sound familiar. But Riker frames it as metabolic warfare. You are reclaiming your biology from the sloth of modern comfort. You're proving to yourself every single day that your will is stronger than your impulses. It's not about health, it's about sovereignty.
And you can't do it alone. He talks a lot about brotherhood.
And he's very specific here. He doesn't mean a men's support group where you sit around and talk about your childhood trauma. He hates that. He says men need exclusive male alliances. Think Freemasons, Roman Collegiate.
Guilds, orders.
Exactly. Groups based on shared mission and shared risk. He argues that men bond through doing, through conquering tasks together, not through therapy circles.
Right.
He says men need to reject the mandate for inclusion. You need spaces that are unapologetically for men, where logos can thrive without being watered down by pathos.
And then bringing it to the home front, fatherhood.
This is the anchor. He calls fatherhood a biological imperative. He cites the dad's dividend, the idea that fatherhood actually civilizes man. It gives him a tangible stake in the future.
So it's not just about the kids needing a dad, the dad needs the kids.
Precisely. It forces him to become the protector. Riker argues that a man's highest calling is to be the anchor of the family. Not a co-parent, he strongly dislikes that term, but a patriarch?
A leader.
Yes, the call to rule. Riker reaffirms that hierarchy is nature's blueprint. Men must stop apologizing for their instinct to lead, build, and protect. He says the world needs men to rule, because the alternative is the chaos and decline we are seeing right now.
The vacuum of male leadership is what allowed this capture to happen in the first place.
It's a powerful call to action, and he wraps it up with a final provocation in the epilogue.
It's a line that really sticks with you. He writes, "The world does not hate you because you are flawed. It hates you because you are strong."
That hits hard.
It totally flips the script. You're told you're toxic because you're broken. Riker says no, they call you toxic because your strength is a direct threat to the dismantled, soft world they are trying to maintain. Strength exposes weakness, and the weak hate that.
Listen, we have covered a lot today, but this deep dive really only scratched the surface of what's inside Tree of Life. Riker goes deep into the neuroscience, the history of Roman law, the evolutionary psychology.
Yeah, if you are hearing this and feeling like, finally, someone is saying what I've been thinking for years, you need to buy the book. Don't just listen to us summarize it. It's available on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books right now. Get the full weaponized truth, as he calls it.
And for his day-to-day insights, make sure to follow the author. He's at Conrad Riker on Substack. That is where the ongoing battle is happening, and that is where you can get the updates that probably won't ever make it to the mainstream platforms.
Absolutely. Go to the source. So if you found value in this deep dive, if this woke something up in you, like and subscribe to this channel, share the specific link with other men who need to hear it.
Don't let the algorithm bury this conversation.
Exactly. And I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. If Riker is right, and the great chain of being is a biological law, what happens to a civilization that successfully completely inverts it? History suggests they don't just fade away, they get conquered by a civilization that kept their chain intact. Something to think about. The chain of being is not broken. It is waiting to be restored. Thanks for listening.
Stay strong.